Hello and thank you for joining. Welcome to this new episode of Veer Talks, and I am very pleased to be joined by one of the pioneering dietitians in the Middle East, one of the earliest and most prominent figures in the dietitian business, Tina Chagoury. I am very pleased to have you here at Veer Studio today.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to join as well.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting title to be a pioneering dietitian. It's like people have been eating for as long as people existed.
Yeah.
But they still need to be told what to eat and what to not eat.
That's true, actually. It's funny, yeah.
Tell me more about this business.
It's a funny business, صراحة. It's to be honest, it's very interesting. When I first started, we're talking 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, we were very few dietitians in the Middle East. And this science was so new that people did not actually believe in it. Even doctors, I remember when I used to do my training in hospitals, doctors would want to give their patients themselves the list of food that they have in the drawer. Because in their opinion, like, what could a dietitian know more? Obviously, within few years, it became very clear that our understanding of the science, of the food science and nutrition science, is much deeper than doctors, not because we're smarter or we know better, but because we spend more time studying the details, the physiology related to food and food digestion. We studied the chemistry of food technology, we studied human nutrition, we studied the psychology, health behavior education, all of these things, all related around food and eating and digestion and disease control and disease prevention. So finally, after a few years, we earned the respect we want to do today. You rarely see a physician giving himself the nutrition recommendations, because now they do believe that, yes, a dietitian knows more because she has more experience in this. Yeah,
that's a very interesting thing to hear from you in particular, because as I understand, what you wanted in the first place is to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Tell me more about Tina Chagoury. Who is Tina Chagoury? How did you come to become a pioneering dietitian 20 years ago?
So 20 years ago, I was Tina Chagoury. I was not married yet. I started off wanting to become a doctor. So I applied to university as a pre-med student, and I got accepted as pre-med, and I went to the first meeting with my advisor. And he is the one who told me, why don't you look into nutrition? Well, in my mind, nutrition, anything paramedical would be like less important than medicine.
Step down.
Yeah, a step down. But then I thought, why not? Let me give it a try. If I like it, if I enjoy it, I'll continue this path. Otherwise, I always have the chance to go back to medicine. And it was honestly love at first sight with nutrition. The courses, the material, the instructors, the authenticity of what you're learning. You can see it every day. It applies to you, to your parents. I remember my father had diabetes when I was doing my degree, and everything made so much sense, which I didn't know. My mom didn't know. He didn't know.
What would a diabetic father need better than a daughter who is a dietitian?
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. And this is one example. And then, obviously, as year passed, and I started practicing even more, and I became a mother, and I started applying my knowledge on my children, and during my pregnancy, it all made sense. So today, my daughter, for instance, she's 14, she asks me, do you think I should do nutrition? And this is a question I get a lot, by the way, because I do teach nutrition students before they actually specialize in nutrition. And it's always, one, yes, if you're passionate and if it's something so interesting to you, but two, it's something that you will use in your everyday life. Even if you don't end up working as a clinical dietitian. I know many dietitians, friends, colleagues who went off doing different things. They started off, مثلا, working in food companies, and then they shifted to other departments. But they always have this in them.
They could be in marketing, they could be in digital, they could be in
sales,
anything.
Marketing, product development.
But they have the knowledge.
Yeah.
Of what they are selling.
Yeah, of course.
And let's go back to our first ironic point about humans still needing to be told what to eat.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, diet is like basically part of our daily human life. And long ago, it's either that nutrition-related diseases were less frequent, or they had less incidences, or we didn't know that they were related to food.
We didn't know.
But now, with the sedentary lifestyle that we have, that we don't move a lot, we don't exercise a lot, we work long hours, we have stress in our lives. Now suddenly diet is a very important component of our well-being, of our welfare. Why is it more important today and in countries like here in the UAE than it is in other places and in other times?
It's not more important, to be honest. It's as important. The thing is, it has become more important or more talked about after COVID. Before COVID, our main area of focus used to be weight loss. Most 80 or 90% of patients who would visit me would be for weight loss, maybe weight loss and beginning of diabetes, maybe weight loss and high cholesterol, but it was mostly weight loss. The shift after COVID was towards longevity, immunity, anti-aging. I want to be strong. I want to balance my hormones. Something was off. I got COVID. My body changed. I want to fix it. So now only people are more aware of the importance of nutrition. When we say nutrition, it's not just, what you eat. It's your lifestyle. It's how you prepare your food, where you buy your food from, what do you eat at what time, how do you feel when you're eating, the psychology of eating. So all this became so important and had so much impact. So many research were done during the COVID about vitamin D deficiency and its relation about omega-3, about lung disease, lung health and food. So yes, it became so popular. You rarely find a family today who has not visited a dietitian at least once for at least one member.
And for at least one reason. There is a kind of a tricky option. I know I promised you it will not turn into tips and
no, on the contrary, go ahead.
But there is one important question that I ponder about, and many of my friends ponder about, the how healthy transported food is, because we eat fresh. I love fresh. It's not only about health. I love to eat fresh. I love salad. I love fruits. I love vegetables. But they don't feel the same because they are transported and imported from other countries. They don't feel the same as they are in other places where they are produced.
Yes.
What can you do about this? And how big a difference does it make to opt for organic, knowing that organic is also transported and also...
Okay, so here's the thing. So you have the imported produce, you have the local produce, non-organic, seasonal, normal, and you have the organic local and the organic imported. If we're talking about the imported, the problem with the imported is that they are picked at the wrong time. They are picked too early before they ripen so that during transportation they don't get spoiled. So by the time you get them, their nutrition hasn't been completed and their taste as well hasn't developed. So you feel an apple that is imported, not important.
Well, it is important.
Yeah, it tastes differently. Actually, the taste is much less
flavorous.
Less flavorous, yes, than the regular one. Now, in terms of nutrition composition as well, because as the fruit ripens on the tree, the composition changes and it gets to the maximum in terms of antioxidants. It matures. So they pick it early and they send it, and by the time it reaches you, it's flavorless. It's not empty in terms of nutrition, but you cannot compare it to your local seasonal product. Not necessarily organic, local seasonal. Where does organic play a role? Organic plays a role, organic local, in terms of chemicals, pesticides. We call them endocrine disruptors. Mm-hmm. So for women specifically, for instance, the more they eat produce that have been sprayed and contaminated with chemicals, the more likely their hormones are to be disrupted, okay? But there are ways to buy organic. There is a list, there are 2 lists that are out every year. They're called the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. The Clean 15 is the list of 15 produce that if you eat them, even if they're non-organic, they have minimal contamination of chemicals.
Minimal exposure to chemicals.
Well, Dirty Dozen are the ones that you absolutely have to buy organic, which means we don't have to buy everything organic, and we don't have to buy only the important, pretty-looking fruits and vegetables in the country. Whenever you have a local farm, go for it. It will taste better. Yes, it might not last as long, especially if it's organic, because it doesn't have those chemicals.
There is the other financial matter in this, because the local produce in countries like here in the GCC region is rare, and it is expensive, and it is not always feasible for every family to rely on. right?
Listen, the local farms, yes, the imported organic, and you look at the blueberries, مثلا, or the raspberries, the box is like 30 or 40 dirhams. Yes, that's a lot. When you can get it for €2 in Europe, and it's coming from the same source, and it doesn't taste the same. But now, the UAE, for instance, are producing so much products, fruits and vegetables, with different types of agricultures, and they're very affordable. Go to the supermarket and compare cherry tomatoes that are locally produced and the cherry tomatoes that are imported. It's almost fifth of the price, the locally produced, and they taste better. You just need to look and search and find your way, and not all supermarkets have those local produce.
Exactly. Not all supermarkets.
Yeah.
There's the logistics part as well.
Of course.
Well, that's very, very good advice. Let's go back to the business itself.
Yeah.
I always have an issue with somebody who specializes in something and then markets this thing as the only thing that you need. Now, okay, I am aware of my diet. Well, I cannot claim to be quite aware, but I'm somehow aware.
Yes.
My belly says otherwise. But there is other components to healthy living. So how does diet go with exercise, with fighting the impact of sedentary lifestyle? What is the mix that everybody needs to have?
Listen, you can't talk about one and not talk about the other, obviously. And this is one of the reasons why you need to sit with a professional before you have a plan. Yani, if your neighbor goes to a dietitian and comes up with a plan, she cannot apply it on you. You should not apply it on you. Yes, 80% of it might apply, the usual. But the 20% are the ones that will make a change. And this is what people fail to understand. She went to the dietitian, she gave her an amazing menu. It's not about the menu. But this person works this way, sleeps this way, have this much stress, takes these supplements, have these deficiencies, have this medical history, have this family
allergies
history,
to food as well.
has intolerances, everything put together. The product of all of this consolidated is what the dietitian gives you in her report. Now, this is one thing. This is one part of a consultation with a dietitian. I always tell my students and people who ask me about specializing, if you really want to go this way, do it fully. So don't stop at a BS in nutrition science or dietetics or clinical nutrition. Do your full year of hospital internship and be acquainted to all the medical conditions. Back in the days, we had to fulfill 12 months of unpaid training to be able to go over all the departments and cover all the medical conditions. And this is how we got our confidence in dealing with renal problems or dealing with diabetics or people with heart disease or cancer or etc. But then after you do your BS, your training, go for a master's in something that you're passionate about. My master's, for instance, was in public health and especially in health behavior education. And this is where I learned all my skills. This is where I learned how to change people's behaviors. How to decide when I sit with you whether you're ready to change or your wife dragged you to the clinic or you're resistant or you've done it a million times and now you're reluctant and you don't trust dietitians. All of these change my attitude towards you.
And the plan that you give me.
So it's this is what happens during the consultation, this kind of discovery between the dietitian and the client.
This is actually a very important point that I want to tackle. Now, there are 2 points that you mentioned. First, now we have been talking about diet for healthy people. Now, how to be healthier by watching your diet or by being smart about your diet, let's just call it. But there are diseases that require special diet, and you just mentioned a few: renal disease, cancer, and I understand you work quite well with women with breast cancer, for example. And there's a lot of myth around this. I have seen well-educated people say that if only I eat this and I don't eat that, I'll cure my cancer. And I have seen also well-educated people who say, no, I just want chemotherapy and diet does not have anything to do with it. There are extremists on the other side and extremists on the first side. What role does diet play in the treatment of, let's start with breast cancer. What role does diet play in that?
I definitely see women with breast cancer, and I am a breast cancer survivor, and this is how I started seeing women. And if you had asked me this question 7-8 years ago, I would have told you, there's very, very little relationship. You just need to eat healthy and be active and do the needful and then, to prevent cancers. But then I was living a super healthy life, and I was eating very healthy, and I'm a dietitian, and I would recommend what to eat, and I had full confidence in my life, the way I was leading my life and my eating, and yet I got diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 39. This is where I started researching. Something is fishy. Something is off. I'm exercising every day. I'm eating super healthy, etc. Obviously, cancer specifically, and breast cancer, it has so many interconnected dots. Most of them we don't know yet about the pathways that lead to it. But few things made it very clear to me why I could have possibly got the breast cancer. Number one is stress and how strong of a relationship it has with cancer cell proliferation. Inflammatory diet and lifestyle, meaning you might be eating low calorie or thinking that you're eating, salads. Every day you get a salad delivery or whatever. But then the dressing that's made up of processed oils, or the components of the dishes you're eating. So it's not only about the calories. And then you might be exercising and thinking, I'm doing great because every day I exercise for 2 hours. I'm drained afterwards. I can't lift my hand. This is inflammatory. You're stressing your body. You're increasing your inflammation. You're putting yourself at higher risk of breast cancer. So after I gathered all this and I started applying on myself, lagging deficiencies, I was deficient in vitamin D for the longest time. Mm-hmm. Even being a dietitian, I always relied, because just for the information of people who are listening, dietitians are not entitled to prescribe supplements, as in write a prescription that the insurance will pay, but they can recommend, right? So even I was not very familiar with the worlds of supplements until I read an article when I was doing my treatment about the link between vitamin D, high vitamin D deficiency or strong vitamin D deficiency, and late-stage diagnosis of breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So there was a study that showed that people who were highly deficient in vitamin D, chances are if they get diagnosed with breast cancer, it's at a later stage. So I don't know if it's luck or what, or coincidence. A year before my diagnosis, or maybe 6 months before my diagnosis, I started true supplementation of vitamin D, because I've had enough. It was always low. And all the doctors would tell me, you're okay, borderline, it's fine. Now we know that borderline is bad and you have to be optimal.
Especially chronic borderline.
Exactly. So anyway, in terms of deficiencies, inflammatory food, the workout you do, the stress level, and how you live with your stress. We can't remove stress from our life, but we can learn ways to cope with stress, and that plays a big role on our physiology.
How accepting are breast cancer patients, especially female breast cancer patients, to recommendations regarding diet?
Very, very receptive, very accepting. One, because I was there. So I talk from experience and from knowledge, but also because these are women who, most of them have no family history of breast cancer, and most of them received the news as a shock. And when you receive similar news as a shock, okay, you go through phases of denial and so on, but then the next thing you do is you start researching like a crazy. It's the same like a mother whose a child gets diagnosed with an illness. Mm-hmm. They come to the doctor or the dietitian. They know more than the doctor or the dietitian, mm-hmm. because all their energy goes into knowing why and how to heal this. And yes, they're very receptive. They're very eager to learn, but at the same time, they're very vulnerable. So if you come with an information that is not scientific, that is not reliable, that is only anecdotal, and you throw it at them, this is very dangerous, because they will take it, like you said, mm-hmm. they will take it as this is the solution, and this is going to heal me, or this is going to stop the cancer from recurring. So you have to be very moderate in the information you give.
And in the information and how you give it,
yeah.
and make sure that they understand that this is part of a whole that you need to do.
Of course.
Now, I'm going to let you into a little secret. My name is Dr. Ali. I am a medical professional. And I
didn't know.
I am enjoying this talk
I'm
a
glad.
lot.
I'm glad.
I'm pretty much enjoying this talk. I want to tackle a very sensitive issue as well, the food tolerance tests. And many people are promoting them aggressively nowadays. Many clinics are promoting them aggressively these days. I have concerns. I told you that I am a medical doctor to justify these concerns. it is true that tolerances are important. We need to understand them. But at the same time, when you do like the tolerance test for 30 food groups or 30 food items, and you show the patient that they are intolerant to these, and they suddenly stop eating them altogether without a plan to substitute them with something else, I find this a little bit risky.
It is.
Tell me more about it.
It is. Actually, yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, yesterday I posted something exactly within this topic. So it is, especially for those who decide to call a company that withdraws blood from home and gives them the result, and there is no health professional involved in the whole scenario. This is wrong. This is not, you're not getting your grocery deliveries. You can't work with your health like this. All your tests and all your exams and everything you do has to be centralized with your main physician. And he or she will guide you into going and doing what and with whom. We can't just have, because you will get lost, because they will get lost. They don't have a centralized place for all that. So this is number one. Number two, food intolerances are legitimate. They're real. Yes, some clinics are over-marketing for them because they're easy money and because people want to do it and because they're not super expensive.
They are easy to market.
Yeah, they're easy to market.
Very easy to market.
Yeah, because you can easily make them think that this is their solution to everything, and it's not. Now, what do they mean? The only thing they mean, these food intolerance tests, is that for this period of time, because they change, by the way, every 3 to 6 months. So I have clients who came to me and who have done the food intolerance test 5 years ago, and they still don't eat the food. It doesn't last. You know, this is seasonal, depending on your stress level, on your health, and on the food you are already consuming. Hence the reason why you find them having the highest intolerance for the food they eat every day.
Of course.
Now, when they get this long list of 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 items they're intolerant to, it doesn't mean you have to cut them all for life. Of course not.
And especially without substitute.
Of course not. There are grades, first of all. There are some which you are super intolerant to, and there are the ones to a lesser extent, and there's a plan to follow. There's a protocol for elimination and the protocol for reintroduction.
Yeah.
But it's very important for you to know that if you get results of very high intolerances, something is off. This is a sign. Your body is telling you that there is something off. It's not about the food. It's about you.
It's about stress level.
It's about your inflammation.
Lifestyle.
I don't know. You're stressed. You're not sleeping. You have hormonal imbalance. You have lagging conditions you don't know of. You're pre-diabetic. It could be a million things other than just food intolerance. And when you treat these other things, the food intolerance will go. When I have a list of more than 40 items, I don't remove any of them. I tell them, you know what, we're going to put this on hold and we're going to investigate with your endocrinologist, with your functional doctor, with your gynecologist, depending on where the problem is. And we are going to solve this, and then you're going to do the test again and figure out what to do. But it gives you nice insights into the body. I have, last week or the week before, I got a client with 0 intolerances. And it was the first time in the history of my clinic.
I believe so, yeah.
0, all green. Everything was green. And then I sat with it was a male. And then I sat with him and we discussed his lifestyle. And it made sense because this man shifted within a year his complete lifestyle from someone who smoked and drank and was inactive and stressful in his job. He changed job. He changed diet. He shifted his full life. And obviously, he healed his body. And yes, we can see the result.
Yeah, he did very well.
Yeah, that's a success story.
It is a success story. A self-success story.
Self-made. He decided to do it on his own.
That's just very impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, many people seek dietitian advice. And first of all, how can they reach you if they want your advice?
They can reach me on my social media handles. There's a place where they can book as well. It's at Tina Chagoury, Goury Chagoury.
You'll see it on screen now?
Yes. I work in 2 clinics in Dubai. I have many clients online, especially since the lockdown we had, where I developed this practice. And at the end
and they can ask us and we'll tell them.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, not everybody can reach Tina Chagoury, but everybody needs dietitian advice. What is your definition of a good dietitian? How can a person tell that I am seeking the advice of a good dietitian?
I'm glad you asked, especially nowadays, because there's a huge confusion in the market between a dietitian, a clinical dietitian, a nutritionist, a health coach, and a nutrition coach, and they're not the same. And each one is specialized in one thing. So a dietitian or a dietitian is a nutrition student who graduated. A clinical dietitian, she has done her internship and she is licensed by the Ministry of Health where she's practicing, okay? And she has done her clinical practice, like we said. A nutritionist is specialized in food science and nutrition and labeling and food production. She doesn't work in clinical settings. A health coach is someone who is specialized. She can be from any background. Most of them are not from a health background. They specialize in coaching patients from doctors and dietitians. So they coach them into applying whatever plan has been given to them in order to apply it in their life. Just like a life coach coaches you into, challenges in your life or any of those obstacles in your life. A life coach, a nutrition coach does the same. A health coach does the same, but when it comes to your health in general. Now, all of them work together perfectly in perfect harmony. I have clients who I see who are also seen by health coaches or nutrition coaches because they need this day-to-day guidance, because they need more of a journey guide on how to reach those things. A dietitian, especially a clinical dietitian with a master's in public health or health behavior education and with years of experience can do it on her own. But some people feel more at ease when they have access every day to their coach. They go for bi-weekly meetings. They follow up on these things. So they all work together. The mistake is when we go to a nutrition coach or to a health coach without consulting with a medical or paramedical before. Why? Because a health coach has all the knowledge for coaching, but they don't have enough knowledge, medical
to prescribe.
Knowledge. One, medical knowledge. Two, the essence of nutrition studies. And three, the practice in hospitals. This is what makes a dietitian resilient in her work. Because she worked for 12 months in a hospital working alongside cardiologists, endocrinologists, pediatricians. So she has more hands-on. It's like a doctor who graduates and who doesn't do his residency.
Yes.
So this is very important. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm demeaning or under...
You're actually being very reasonable.
Because I have a high respect for health coaches and nutrition coaches. I myself have been to a life coach as well, and it's an incredible change in my life. After my diagnosis with breast cancer, and as I needed to go back into my career, I needed the assistance of a life coach to just show me what I'm not seeing and to help me help myself, basically. And this is what coaches do, and this is what clinical dietitians do. And we need to understand our needs. Some people don't need a dietitian. They only need a nutrition coach if they don't have medical conditions, if they know what they have, but they just need the support, and vice versa.
This is very valuable. Actually, the fact is everybody needs dietitian support, or let's just say diet support.
Yeah.
But not many people are growing more accepting to the idea that, okay, everybody needs dietitian support. But to those who still don't believe that I need a dietitian support, or like, okay, my parents and my grandparents and everybody in my family has lived on this diet
and
forever and never
to.
had disease, never been to a dietitian. What would you say to them, especially now in the in this... How can we, this turmoil that we live in, that we call a century? It's like a very stressful century all over the place.
Yeah.
Work is stressful. Geopolitical affairs are stressful. Stability is lacking. We're always constantly worried about the people we love. We're constantly worried about the future. We're worried about our children.
Yeah.
There is something big that we are living right now. What do you say to people who live in this situation and they still say, no, my grandparents used to cook every day and they were fine?
Well, because your grandparents didn't live in the era you're now living in, number one. Your grandparents didn't know that there is something like this that could have helped them, because I'm sure your grandparents at some point suffered from illness or from diseases. Because we have this impression that our grandparents lived happily. They died younger, our grandparents. Now we're living longer. And the longer people live, the more health diseases, health issues arise. So times have changed. And most importantly, because of the influx of information and artificial intelligence and data that is bombarded onto us every single day, especially in terms of health and nutrition, There is, I'm sure on everybody's feed on social media, there is at least 1 or 2 or 3 posts about the new diet or the new food or why doing this is bad and why eating this is good.
Or lose weight in 7 days or 7 weeks.
So because of this huge influx of data, you need someone to set the record straight for you. Now, what we do now in our business, what I do on social media, I set the record straight in general. So I do my awareness, I post my videos, I correct information, but this is very general. If you have issues that you suffer from and you think you need or you're not sure if you need, then it's a good chance for you to just explore. Just sit and see. Maybe many people come visit the dietitian once. They take what they need. They don't need follow-ups. They don't need to come every 2 weeks. They don't need to take a plan. They don't need a protocol. I have clients who book consultations online, 30-minute discovery. We get to talk about what I do, what they need, and then that's it.
That's more than enough for them.
Yeah, that's more than enough. Because
orientation, awareness.
Orientation, exactly. And some people have been with me since 2005.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can tell you in some. Can I take the privilege of telling you what you do that is different?
Yes, of course.
You're scientific. I am a medical doctor and I'm a very skeptic one. And I am very skeptic about every trend that we see on social media.
Yeah.
But with Tina Chagoury, I see a scientific person. I see somebody who can justify their recommendations, who can tell people why this is good and why this is bad. Not only because they should trust them or because it worked with somebody else, but because of the science of food, the chemistry of food. And I respect that. And this puts Tina Chagoury ahead of the crowd. And this is why I called you a pioneering one. You are pioneering not only in the industry itself, but in maintaining your scientific approach to everything until today. And that's something I respect very much.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it because this is exactly what I long to do. So I'm glad that you can see it and people can see it this way.
I can, definitely. And that's why I trust what you are doing. I am a very skeptic person, Tina. A very, very skeptic person. Even in art, in music, I'm a very skeptic person. It would take a lot to drag me to the cinema to watch a movie. I have to realize, I have to be sure that it's worth my 2 hours in the cinema.
I understand.
Despite my skepticism, I respect what you do a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is something that you don't find every day.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say to our audience before we close?
Not at all. I'm very happy with this talk. It's always nice to talk about it from a business point of view, not only food. And I hope whomever is watching will get something out of it.
I'm sure they did. And thank you very much all for watching. It's been my pleasure to host Tina. I am very, very happy with this episode. And I promise you more episodes with Tina if she agrees. Would you?
Of course, anytime. Anytime.
I promise you more with Tina, especially on social media. And until that time, thank you very much for watching. This is Dr. Ali saying goodbye.